there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host. Hey there. Thanks for joining me for this week's show. I'm going to take a look at some of the astrology aspects to keep in mind for the week starting June 29. This is a super busy week with lots of different planetary aspects and changes, as well as a new moon coming up on July 5th. But the planet that has really caught my eye that I'm going to focus on is Venus. Venus is moving through Cancer, our water sign that is ruled by the moon. And she's going to make two aspects this week. First, she's going to link to Mars, and then she's going to link to Saturn. To get even more divine alignment in your life, join my Astrology Guide membership. You'll learn how to align your actions with the planets, and you'll get better at timing with astrology. You can find out more or join us inside the membership via my website, kellysastrology.com. So Venus is a little bit like the glue, particularly when Venus is in a water sign. She's going to help tie events and people together this week. I really think of Venus in a water sign as this kind of sticky influence. You know, water is the element that helps bind and connect things. Venus is a planet that naturally does that, but she does that even more so when she's in a water sign. You know, I think about this when I'm baking in the kitchen. We use wet things like eggs or oil or milk or a milk substitute to help things stay together. So if you're making muffins or a cake, you've got to make sure you've got enough moisture in it. Otherwise, it crumbles and falls apart. And so this week, Venus is really kind of wet, and she's going to be very focused on this kind of joining together or helping connect people, pleasures, all kinds of things. So to get the practical details out of the way, Venus's first aspect is a sextile to Mars in Taurus. Now, this happens on Saturday, June 29. Venus will be at 14 Cancer and Mars is about 14 Taurus. And then a few days later, on Tuesday, July 2nd, Venus is going to trine Saturn, who is in Pisces. So Venus will have come to 19 Cancer and she'll trine Saturn at 19 Pisces. So they're the two aspects, Venus sextile Mars and Venus trine Saturn, that I'm going to talk about today. Just as an initial observation, Venus is a benefic or a helpful planet that has this generally affirming quality. And because she's making two of those more flowing aspects, a sextile and a trine this week, there really is this kind of flowy, supportive energy that I think is generally going to help with connection. It's going to make there this sort of ease and smoothness to interacting with people. It's also going to make it a little easier to prioritize the special people and partnerships in your life. I also think it's going to help us tune into, in a really positive way, things like pleasure and enjoyment, as well as long-term protections and safety as well. So a variety of sort of improvements or good things from Venus this week. The sextile from Venus to Mars this weekend is really about fun. It's about enjoyable activities. It's about shared mini adventures. There's a little bit of energy here about kind of getting things done or doing that fun thing together. Venus and Mars collaborating via a sextile relationship with lots of reception because Venus is the ruler of the sign that Mars is in right now. And so this Venus-Mars collaboration really can help with togetherness, but also the doing of things, like the taking action, the initiating. For some of us, it's the starting of the new thing or doing the one-off thing. You know, with friends or family or even a romantic partner, how it's like so easy to say, let's get together or let's go and do this thing together, and then it never happens. Well, this weekend with Venus sextile Mars, I think it's time to make it happen, to do the thing, to call up the people, to plan that get together. Because with Mars in the mix, it's very much about doing things. You know, since Mars is in aspect with Venus, it's about doing things with others, doing things together. This isn't so much about like a solo sort of situation. It's more about that coming together, that shared activity, adventure, doing the thing. So hopefully you've got that as a theme. You're going to reach out to some people, put a date in the diary to do the things that you've always been talking about. This Mars Venus aspect, because it's got such a strong Venus kind of tone to it, it really has a conciliatory, finding common ground vibe. It's got this sort of figuring out a path to peace or figuring out kind of how to unite or reunite. So if you've got to like repair with someone, if things have come apart, this could be helpful. With Mars in Taurus, there might be some reluctance to making an agreement or working together or moving forward. But since Mars is in a sign ruled by Venus and in aspect to Venus, Mars kind of has to get on board with the Venus train here. And so the theme that I'm really seeing coming out of this aspect is it can be about finding a way forward that people or groups with different priorities or sometimes even different points of view can agree on. So maybe we've had a problem that we're trying to resolve and we're not completely like, um, you know, losing our own points of view, but we are figuring out actually this connection is worth, fighting for, or it's worth trying to figure things out. Venus is really pushing that unity theme. So she's like, how can we stay together? Mars is like, well, I want to move forward. So that together, it's sort of this thing of how do we find a way forward that we can all be okay with? May not mean we get everything we want, but we get that sense of staying connected and being able to kind of move forward, create progress. So if you've been navigating a disagreement or you're struggling to find common ground with someone, this Venus sextile Mars aspect might help with figuring out how to navigate differences and then still move forward in a way that maintains your connection. So there's a few different themes to this Venus Mars aspect. There's the fun adventure, do it now, be in the moment. And there's also how do we come together and move forward, even if we don't always agree on everything all the time. That said, I do think this Venus Mars sextile aspect really does have like this overall theme of being entertaining, playful, active. There's a little bit of energy. So we're trying to get things going where things have been a bit stuck or sleepy or a bit stagnant. We're sort of enjoying the moment together. And so I hope you all get to have some fun with that. It may not mean you have to have, 30 people around on the weekend, but you might have, 4 or 5 fabulous people that you really enjoy just to have that shared experience. So that's Venus Mars. That's up first. That aspect is on Saturday. You might feel it Friday and Sunday as well. And then a few days later, we've got a grounded, kind of substantial trine aspect from Venus to Saturn. And there is a bit of a serious quality with Venus trine Saturn, but really there's also this craving for connection, for belonging, and also a craving for feeling safe. Almost as if you want to know that the people you're with, the path that you're on, maybe the work that you're involved in, that it's going to, you're going to get somewhere with your efforts, that the people you're with, you can really trust, you can rely on them, they're consistent, and that where work or the path and the choices you're taking, that you're feeling like that you're getting some reward or there are some benefits to what you're doing. So that sense of wanting to have like either an emotional safety net and investing in friendships, or literally wanting to have a bit of a financial safety net and making some great choices with your finances. These are things that the Venus Saturn aspect can help. It's in a water sign, so it's really about the feelings, but sometimes our feelings are tied to some of those practical matters, especially when Saturn is in the mix. Venus trine Saturn is also an aspect about making plans and promises for the long term. This is an aspect of commitment. So if you have to make an agreement, if you have to sign something, if you have to lock a plan in stone, Venus trine Saturn is a great aspect to do that. It can be about showing up for a loved one, a friend, a relative, a coworker, a romantic partner, really when it matters. Sometimes showing up to celebrate the good things, and sometimes it's about showing up to commiserate when we're dealing with disappointments. Venus trine Saturn is just sort of being there because you care, come what may, good or bad. Another piece of the Venus trine Saturn aspect is that it can be about enjoying the lovely connections that you already have. If you've got a good relationship with a friend or with some coworkers, that's because you've already put in a lot of effort over time. And so why not reap the rewards of that? Maybe you need a little bit of support and there's somebody that you can reach out to because you've been there for them in the past. And so with Venus trine Saturn, there's a lot about devotion to the special people in your life, the people and partnerships that really matter. And for some of us, it'll be about expressing that devotion right now, this week. And for others, it might be benefiting from the care that we've shown to others over time. So it's really kind of warm and nourishing. It does have that sense of like, I feel safe because there are people that I can either have fun with or that I can call on for a little bit of a boost when I need it. So, with this Venus trine Saturn aspect, there's really this mix of enjoying reward from past efforts. Maybe you've had a financial goal that you've achieved and you're like, wow, I really get a little bit of breathing space now, or I've ticked that box, and doesn't that feel good? So there's that mix of, reward from past effort, but also recognizing that you can build towards the future you want by just making a few small tweaks or changes today. So Venus trine Saturn is really great for helping you clarify your priorities, whether that's a work thing, a people thing, a creative thing. And once you kind of know what is going to feed you and nourish you on a variety of levels, then you kind of allow your time and the way you allocate your time to reflect that being a priority. And anytime we get this sort of lovely benefic planet making a trine aspect to Saturn kind of thing, there is a lot of wisdom. You've had a lot of experiences that you can draw on. You might find there is an experienced elder that you can go to for like that wise sound voice, that sort of wise input. So don't be afraid to seek out that kind of mentor or somebody who's done what you're trying to do and see what wise words of wisdom they might have to offer. But also don't neglect your own experiences, the hard-won wisdom that you have gained. And that all factors in to either making great choices this week with Venus Saturn or being able to enjoy some really beautiful experiences or rewards because we have, achieved these things that have been a priority for such a long time. I also see this Venus Saturn aspect as a quality, not quantity aspect. And that can apply with really anything from the clothes you wear to the books you read to the shows that you watch to the people that you spend time with. Quality, not quantity is about a few things that are really like substantial and rich and solid rather than junky stuff that you've got a lot of that is not really enriching you or satisfying you in any way. So really don't think about having everything or all the things, but with Venus trine Saturn, focus on enjoying high quality experiences that make you feel good. This is buying, that really high quality block of chocolate or beautiful, tea. These are things that I obviously spend a bit of cash on rather than like the like short-term feeling. Sometimes I go, oh my God, I just want sort of a junky Rice Krispie, but I never feel good after it. And I always feel much better if I just had a high quality piece of chocolate, even though I can buy, a million Rice Krispies for the same price of like one great block of dark chocolate. So it's that idea of the high quality single thing rather than the many of maybe the cheaper thing, if you're in a position to make that choice. But the vibe here is very much quality over quantity where possible. You get to choose what your pleasure is. Venus trine Saturn is like being honest with yourself first and then hopefully with others about what actually is pleasurable and enjoyable for you. So you get to acknowledge and be truthful with yourself. This is a pleasure for me, whatever it might be. And then you get to prioritize that thing so that you get to delight in that enjoyment. You don't have to keep it a secret. It doesn't have to be a guilty pleasure. And you don't have to deny yourself. Venus trine Saturn is like, we want to have space for pleasure as much as we focus on productivity. Venus trine Saturn can also have a stabilizing quality. It can bring grounded elements that really anchor you and help you feel stable, maybe feel steady. Getting into good rhythms and routines is also part of this. And so figuring out how to kind of be in a way that's really calm, that you can replicate and keep doing things is part of Venus trine Saturn. So sometimes we learn about our limits that we haven't been respecting under an aspect like this. And here, of course, is where we bump into that core theme of Saturn, which is about restraint and limits and boundaries. Now, Saturn isn't trying to block your joy, but rather direct you towards the options that are going to be most enjoyable or most satisfying, or are going to kind of give you a benefit for the longest time period. So keep that in mind, that Saturn is not trying to deny you the enjoyment. It's maybe trying to direct you towards really nourishing, really satisfying, satiating kind of connections, experiences, leisure activities, that type of thing. And if you keep that sort of long-term focus of Saturn in mind, you might find that you're actually really willingly open to embracing restraint, so that you have a little bit of what feels good today, but you save yourself for good things in the future as well. So with Venus trine Saturn, that theme of restraint is there, but it's sort of we're choosing it from that place of inner wisdom, knowing what's really good for ourselves, for our bodies, for the people around us, that type of thing, in a kind of reasonable, realistic way. And that's kind of sometimes the definition of maturity, isn't it? I will just have a small amount of this thing so that I don't pay for it tomorrow, but I'll still get a little bit of that pleasure, if you like. Venus and Saturn, because they're connecting across water signs, Cancer and Pisces, that can really point to sort of emotional priorities, sometimes financial priorities, for that idea of like financial security is coming in there as well. So we're really learning how to better nurture ourselves in these areas. We're learning how to better honor and care for our emotions, and we're learning how to better organize our finances, not because we're focused on, being crazily wealthy or anything, but because you have an understanding that there's a sense of safety that you probably get when you know that you've got a little bit of a financial buffer, or you've got a financial plan that you feel really good about. It's really, I think part of this Venus trine Saturn aspect is showing that it's okay to feel what you feel and to need what you need, and that you're absolutely allowed to create a space or a structure or a container that is going to make you feel better and to like provide for your needs. So you've got that sense of security. So if we think about this week, we've got Mars and Saturn in the mix, and there's a bit of both the do it now, have fun in the moment. That's the Venus Mars on the weekend. And then there's also this idea of I can do a few things now that are really going to make me feel even better in the future. That's the Venus Saturn piece. So it's a lovely week to make a change for both your present and long-term benefit. It's also a great weekend to have lots of fun with those kind of in the moment adventures. So let me know how you're enjoying life under this pair of juicy Venus aspects this week. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Have fun, and I'll see you next week.